Dr. Janine Pachano, and in this video, I want to just expound upon our conversation about the thyroid and give you some insight into what tests you might want to have ordered for your thyroid in order to really see a whole complete picture. Now, typically, when people feel like there's something going on and they want to have their doctor run a panel, a blood panel, they're hoping that they're going to get a lot of information out of that, and especially regarding the thyroid. Now, typically, a thyroid panel that's run might just have what's called a TSH, which is a thyroid stimulating hormone test. But what we really want to see is the thyroid hormones, T3 and T4. Also, we want to rule out and make sure there are no markers of inflammation and antibodies against the thyroid hormone. And we also want to see if there's a metabolic impairment and what the rate of reverse T3 is. So, the important things to test for in a thyroid panel are going to be TSH, T3, T4, free T3, free T4, and reverse T3, and something called TPO or TPA or TG, so thyroid globulin. Another valuable test is a radioactive iodine uptake test, which is about the level of iodine that is present. That's also very valuable. Some of the reasons that these are not always ordered is restrictions in insurance, or doctors only have the capacity to order particular tests in a certain sequence of events based on your symptoms in order for insurance to pay. You always have the option of going about getting tested for things and getting information, but you might have to pay out of pocket for it. So, in the world of thyroid, we want to get all those bits so we can have a really good insight as to what's going on deeply with the thyroid. And then from there, we can say what are the real optimal ranges for things based on what's showing up in those results relative to each other, and also relative to your age, and also maybe some other conditions that are going on. Now, pregnancy influences thyroid hormones. Sometimes women during pregnancy will have elevated thyroid, and then they'll have a low thyroid, and we want to take that into consideration. We also want to take into consideration the postpartum thyroid picture. So there's a lot of different things that may show up that may look like abnormal, but they're actually in relationship to the condition or the situation at the time a person's in, maybe not abnormal. Whenever somebody brings me their lab work, I want to make sure that I can accurately utilize that information. So it has to be relatively new. It has to be performed within the last 3 or 6 months. And it also has to be factored in as to what was going on at the time that they had the testing done and what time of the day that they did the testing. So different things are going to be read at different times of the day. So we want to take that all into consideration before we make a collective assumption about a diagnosis. I have a personal experience with that. When I was younger, I had mononucleosis when I was around 16. And at the time, my thyroid levels, my TSH was really high. And the doctor told me and my family that I had hyperthyroidism and that I needed to get my thyroid gland removed. Now, thank God, my parents were wise enough to know that they probably needed a second opinion, and that we're just going to play this out and see how it goes. And I returned totally to normal, and there was nothing wrong with my thyroid. It was because I had an active infection at the time. That's why my levels were high. You want to make sure that your levels and what is being told is accurate based on what's going on for you. I see so many people getting diagnosed with this, that, or the other, and they, in fact, do not have that. And they're basing everything off of that diagnosis that was given. Now, had I went forth and said, oh, you're right, oh, I better listen and you take my thyroid gland out, what would my life have been like 10, 20, 30 years later? It probably would have been a lot different. So we want to always work in the present. We also want to make sure that the blood work and the labs that we have are accurate for what has been going on. Now, another piece that might want to be assessed, speaking of mononucleosis, especially if there's thyroid issues for women and there is fatigue, a lot of tiredness, we want to check, and I like to inquire as to whether there might be the presence of a viral infection, such as chronic mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr virus, or cytomegalovirus. Or maybe there is a latent herpes simplex virus. Viruses tend to also affect glands. They affect adrenal glands and they affect thyroid glands. So sometimes a chronic viral infection can cause thyroid issues. So we always want to go deeper. We always want to look deeper. We always want to get all the accurate information so we can make the use of what Western medicine is so wonderful for at times, which is to give us a complement to our inquiry and our diagnosis. So I look forward to supporting you more, and I hope that gave you a little bit more insight. Remember, you're a whole person. You deserve a whole person approach to healing, and you deserve to have accurate information to base your health decisions on. And you also deserve to have access to things such as lab work. Even if you have to pay out of pocket, you always have that option. You can go to any lab test now. An acupuncturist can typically order labs for you. You might have to pay out of pocket. Likely you won't be able to bill your insurance company, but you always have the ability and should always have the ability to get that information for yourself. So thank you again for listening, and I love supporting you in your health and wholeness. I'm Dr. Deneen Pachano, acupuncture physician. Thank you so much.